Welcome back to another episode of The Power of Your Story, a space for people to share their story, learn from their story, and ultimately empower others through their story. Today's guest is someone that I've been fortunate enough to connect with. I think it's been maybe even 2.5 years ago when I was first starting Overcoming Odds. And I remember she was one of the first and early supporters of everything that we chose to do through that particular space. And her and I have maintained contact and have been able to collaborate, support each other and on each other's podcasts. She was also a speaker at many of the events that we've had in San Diego and LA. Her name is Michelle Madrid-Branch, and you'll be able to find many of the different ways to connect with her towards the end of the show, as well as throughout this particular conversation. But the topic that I wanted to discuss with all of you today revolves around mindset. And in particular, what do you do or how do you respond in the face of adversity? How do you respond to your circumstances? So those are the big things that we'll get into today. And if you happen to have any questions or if there's anything that you would like to know from your own lived experience, please put it in the chat. And one other thing that I'll mention is this. If you happen to like any of the previous episodes, or if you enjoy the one that we're about to put together, all I ask is you consider leaving us a review on iTunes, but it's not there just yet. Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, or simply just typing in the comments what you have enjoyed and appreciated the most about any of these current conversations. And with that said, let's get back to the show. Here she is. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. How are you, Oleg? It's so good to see you.
I know I'm always grateful when we're able to connect. And actually, one of the people that you know, Nicole Ash, has joined us as well.
Hi.
And her and I connected. I think it was in LA, right?
Yeah.
LA event when we all met. And then Annie is another person whom I don't know if you've connected with her, but she's just an incredible human being. I was able to be on her podcast that she has. I think it's Attitude or Gratitude with Attitude.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm grateful that we're able to do this and to have this conversation around adversity. I think there's no better time, so to speak, when it comes to this. I know that I shared with you the brief adversity that I've experienced living here in Texas. And that was last week, waking up to a foot of snow, which was kind of a surreal experience. You know?
Yeah. And I have to apologize, Oleg, because I forget that you're in Texas. I always think, oh, he's in LA or he's in San Diego, because we live in this Zoom world now, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes from a geographic perspective, we forget where people are. And I know what you and Texans have gone through, everyone in Texas, and it has been real adversity. And I've seen the struggles. And I've also seen the resilience of people coming together and amazing stories. So my heart goes out to everyone in Texas. My heart goes out to you, my friend. I'm so glad you're okay.
Mm-hmm. It really proved to me, I think, this whole power of community this time in particular, like people being able to come together and support each other in whatever ways we can. I mean, it got to a point where I think it was Wednesday, we were boiling snow, like a group of my friends, and it's funny in the moment, and it still is, that those were the measures that it got down to. But if anything, what I started to learn about this whole concept of adversity is, there's definitely the will from the individual person that has to come in to change the circumstances. But I think the community also plays a tremendous role in helping establish the mindset and maintain that positivity, especially when everything is low, like energy wise, and the circumstances are real sometimes.
And it's so true what you say. Community is a powerful force, and just within the adoptee community, the adoption community. I know along my journey as an adoptee, just take that, if you will, for example, there was a time where I just didn't think I could lean into community, that I could trust that someone else would be there. And I also didn't know if I could be vulnerable enough to say, hey, I need help. I need to be lifted up. And what I found with this, the transformational power of doing that, of leaning into community, of, giving to community, and also being able and willing and open to receiving from community, is a beautiful thing. And what you say couldn't be more true. Community is key along the path to overcoming adversity, to changing our mindset, to be reminded of our worth, etc. We need people around us. We're wired for that. As human beings, we're wired for relationship. We need that. We crave that.
And connection, I think, is just at the core of it all. Being connected to others, being connected to ourselves. And I know that this is something that you speak about quite a bit, and it's the triangle theory, which was actually my first time coming across it when we were talking about a possible topic. I was wondering, it might be best to start off with that theory to begin with, and then from there we can kind of dissect and apply it to the adversity component and see how this whole concept of mental, physical, and spiritual really plays a role in facing the adversity that many of us go through.
Absolutely, and how they work together. Individually we can work on them, but ultimately when they work together, it's just such a powerful trio. I think, I believe, and again, I'm going to take this back to the adoptee experience. As an international adoptee myself, Oleg, you and I share that experience. I say that I believe every adoptee is a hero, and they're able to heal their pain, emerge from limiting belief, reframe their experiences, and overcome any obstacle. And there was a time where I saw myself more like a zero than a hero in my life, because I really felt like the labels, in foster care that I was given, that limiting belief that I was somehow given away, that I wasn't enough for my birth parents to want to keep me and raise me, et cetera, et cetera. I had just such a load of lies in my head. And what I wanted was to declutter my life, because it didn't seem to matter the level of success I reached in my profession, my original profession, which was television news. At the end of the day, I still felt pretty lousy about myself. And I felt like my mind, my body, my spirit was cluttered with a lot of limiting belief. And so as an adoptee empowerment life coach today, I ask my coaching clients, the adoptees I coach, the same questions that I asked myself early on when I embarked upon the journey of transformation and facing what needed to be faced in order to move through the wound, to heal and move forward in my life. And, the questions were, what do I want? What do I want? And why do I want it? And how can I get it? How can I get it? What do I need to do to get it? If I'm here and I want to be here, what's standing in the way? What's in the middle? And so when I said, what do I want? Well, I wanted clarity of mind. I wanted clarity of my mind. I wanted agility, my physical body, right? And I wanted tranquility of spirit. And all of those things. There's a quote, I don't know who said it, Oleg, but there's a quote that says, clarity is the elimination of mental clutter. Agility is the elimination of physical clutter. And then tranquility is the elimination of spiritual clutter. And I wanted clarity, agility, and tranquility. And I knew that I needed to declutter some things in my life, some thoughts, some beliefs, etc. And so the hero, what I call the hero triangle, getting back to the adoptee's ability to heal. I believe that everything that we need to heal is within us now, right now, in this moment. We just have to declutter and get to the source, right? There's a mindset, there's our physical set, and there's our spiritual set. And when we can work on, decluttering, so we have a powerful mindset, decluttering, so we have a strong physical set, and decluttering, so we have that peace-filled spiritual set. I think that's a very empowering trio. And when we have that, and we begin to align with that and find a balance in that place, I think then we are able to connect with what I call a heart set. And the heart set is really the essence of who we are. It's the essence of why we're here. There's so much wisdom in that place of heart set. And so being very clear in what do I want? Why do I want it? Because that's the fuel. And then what do I need to do to get it? I think those are the first three very critical and essential questions one must ask themselves. And then begin finding the tools, reaching out, getting support to shore up your mindset, to strengthen your mindset, your physical set, and your spiritual set. So that's what I talk about when I talk about the hero triangle. I think it's pretty simple. I'm not saying this is easy work. If it was, everyone would be doing it, right? But it's essential and beautiful work if you really, really, really wanting to find that place of alignment within and live a life that where you feel completely, in balance. And yeah, sure, we're going to fall out of balance now and again, but then we have the tools. We know how to talk to ourselves. We know how to change a limiting belief into a limitless truth, etc. And so we do the work, we build the muscle. But first, absolutely, we need to know what we want, why we want it, and what we need to do to get there.
What wasn't working out for you that made you want to say, I want to change this, and this is the route that I'm going to take?
Such a good question. I just think I didn't feel I was worthy of happiness and joy and love. I really didn't trust that I could be loved in the way I felt I desired deep down within myself. And I didn't know if I could love anyone and offer someone that kind of love because I was so afraid of rejection. I felt like rejection was always looming around the corner. And that was just a primal belief from my earliest days of being a kid who was placed in foster care and then adopted. So I think it was the limiting belief always that I'm not enough. Even when I was, in television news and nominated for Emmys, etc., in the back of my head was always that question, well, at some point they're going to find out. When are they going to really find out that I'm really not enough? And it was a heavy load. And there, at some point, and I'm pretty sure it was with with Tony Robbins at some point, because I've done a lot of work with Tony Robbins and his Platinum Partnership and traveled, around the world, learning from Tony. And the pain, I couldn't withstand the pain anymore. And it was that point where I was like, I am not going to live like this anymore. The pain is too great. And I know I'm greater than this pain. And so I need to figure out how to get out from under it.
And was that where the greater than, was that how it was born?
Yeah.
Because I know it's also tied to your daughter, correct? That particular podcast?
Absolutely. Because you're referring to the podcast, Greater Than. When I was in Ethiopia, adopting my little girl, who's now 11, I was in Addis Ababa and standing in the orphanage. And the first time I held her in my arms was a powerful moment, of course. And my daughter had been given the Ethiopian name of Tiblet. And it was given to her by the stranger who found her in southern Ethiopia, abandoned. And when I asked the orphanage director, the translation of my daughter's Ethiopian name, Tiblet, she said it means let her be greater. And it was a powerful moment for me because I felt like in some ways this was a divine message, because I knew innately that there was something keeping me from my ultimate greatness in life. Right? And I was so hungry for it, but I didn't quite know how to get there. The weight of the limiting thoughts were so heavy. I just didn't know how to move out from that shadow of what was my past story. And this was a driving force, though, for me when I received that divine message. And I believe that's absolutely what it was and remains this day to be that. I connect with it all the time. I knew that I needed to make some changes in order to be an example for my daughter of what it means to be a woman who can rise above adversity and to live true to that desire that I held in my heart. And so I began to do the work. This was back in 2010. So it's been over a decade now of doing the work and just working to transform my life, myself, mind, body, and spirit, and arrive at a place of truth and living unflinchingly in that truth of who I am. But yeah, that's how it all began. It's how it all began, that divine message, something that is handed to you. And if you don't pay attention, you might miss it. But I couldn't miss it in that moment. Oleg, when I brought her back to the States, she was diagnosed with failure to thrive. And she was riddled with giardia from being exposed to unsafe, unclean water while in Ethiopia. And she was malnourished and tiny and just frail. And I remember being in the doctor's office here in the States and receiving that diagnosis of my daughter being, this thing, I'd never even heard of it, failure to thrive. And I was looking at my little girl into her watery eyes, and I really saw a reflection of my own condition, that I had really been living in this sort of fight or flight mode, failing to thrive in my life when my deepest desire was to thrive and be all that I'm here to be. And so the pain was so great that I couldn't stay within these limiting stories anymore. Something had to be done. And again, I started the process of, well, what do I want? Why do I want it? And what do I need to do to get there?
Do you think positivity is a choice?
I do. I think it's a daily choice. And in some respects, it's a second by second choice. To see an adversity, to go through something hard and ask yourself, this is something else Tony taught me. How is this happening for me and not to me? How is this moment happening for me and not to me? What is it here to teach me? How is it here to grow me? And I realized, and listen, life is hard. And we are all dealt some tough cards in life. And so I don't diminish that at all. But there is a moment where we have to ask ourselves, is this going to overcome me, or am I going to overcome this? And I wanted to choose to overcome. And so I did. I began to ask questions of, how is this happening for me and not to me? I'm willing, universe, I'm willing to learn from this and through this, use this moment, use this adversity, use this challenge to mold me into a better person, stronger, more capable, better equipped to help, because that's what we're all here for. We're here to help each other, one another, getting back to community. And so, I think positivity is a choice that we have to make, and we have to be aware and awake to the power of making the choice of looking at a tough moment and trying to see in it some miracle in the mess.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think for me, I live from a similar mindset and a similar place. I believe that life is happening for you. I know that for me, when I started to look at adverse circumstances and everything that has happened and continues to happen, because that's the thing about adversity, is that it doesn't have an endpoint. A friend of mine one time said, I think he said this about a crisis, not necessarily adversity, although the two are related. He said, very rarely is there a beginning or an end. You're just in the middle of it. Like that's you're in the middle of the circumstance, and there's no end to it, and there's not necessarily a beginning. And it reminded me of the importance of keeping that mindset and perspective of what am I here to learn, and what is this here to teach me? Because there are lessons that one can take away. And I think the whole positivity mindset, I can't say it's the only thing that allows those experiences to transform, but I will say that it has been a critical component of whatever that formula that looks like, just having the ability to not be in the circumstances, but more so like step outside.
And not be defined by the circumstance, right? Because we can become so defined in our heads that this is what I am. This is something that happened to me, therefore it is what I am, right? I was an orphan child, therefore that's what I'm always going to be. I was rejected, so I expect to be rejected in all relationships, in every situation in my life. So where your focus goes, your energy flows, right? There's where you focus, that energy is going to surround you. So if I'm focused on rejection, the energy of rejection is going to find me. But if I can shift that and I begin to focus on inclusion and all the ways that I am welcomed into my life and into this world and into this experience, then that kind of energy is going to find me. And so what you say and what you speak of is so true. I love what you said about being in the middle. My friend and author, Lori Pullett Short, writes about, you're in the middle. Remember, you're in the middle of your story when you're facing adversity, when you're in the dark and you don't know which way to turn, which way is up, which way is down. If we can just stop and remind ourselves that we're in the middle of the story. We're not at the end. There's something to learn. How is this happening for me and not to me? I'm not at the end of my rope, and I'm not unraveling. I'm unfolding into the next chapter of my life. And these are mindset shifts that are so key and so important when we have the awareness of understanding that, you know what, that's a limiting thought, but I'm going to thank it because it's directed me toward what I want. It's showing me what I don't want. I don't want to feel always rejected in my life. I don't want to always expect that rejection is going to find me. I'm going to shift it to being embraced into this world, included, wanted, etc. And that energy will find me, and that we are truly in the middle of our life experience. There's that quote that says, as long as you have breath, you have purpose. So true. The breath of us is a miracle and a gift. We've been given it for a reason because we still have a purpose to live out. And adversity can do tricks on our heads and make us think that we're at the end and there's nothing else. We're done. But the truth of the matter is that's just absolutely not true, right? We just have to connect with our truth and carry on in so many respects. Just carry on. You mentioned earlier before we started this conversation, what did you say?
One more step.
One more step. One more step. I have this philosophy of 1%. Every day, I'm going to give at least 1% to my goal, to my dream. And I can do that. I can take one more step. And so we have to urge ourselves and each other to keep going, to keep moving through the adversity and keep taking, as Oleg says, that one more step.
Yeah, I experienced the same thing, and I shared this with people before on this show, and those that tune in. When I hiked the Grand Canyon, on the way up, it became so difficult just on the body, and that was one of the ultimate moments where I just continued to remind myself that it's mind over body. And repeating in my head, one more step, was really probably the way that I was able to keep going. Because the body wanted to give up so many times and it wanted to rest. And, there's value in sitting down and resting, but then there's also tremendous value in understanding that you have an hour and a half before the sun goes down. And you got to get up there. And if you don't get up there, you're going to be hiking in the dark. And I think just that reminder of one more step, it's just such a pivotal moment, like in my journey, where it allowed me to understand that as long as I keep going and then take the necessary breaks in between, I think this is also applicable in life, taking the break to reflect, but then after a while, just continuing to tell myself that you still have to keep moving. And it's the same exact thing that you mentioned, the 1%, over a course of a day, it may not seem like much, over a course of a week, but look at it in a course of a year or 10 years. That 1%, it truly does add up. Yeah, it does.
It does. It keeps building and it keeps building. I love what you share your experience and, the Grand Canyon. In November, I'm an equestrian and I'm one of those crazy people who gets on a 1,500 horse and jumps over high things. And, a horse is a living being. It has its own fears, it has its own will, and it's a magical partnership when you work together and intuitively start to just move together, right? But in November, I was showing my horse, and we finished one of the courses, and it went very well, but my horse got amped up. And I came out of my tack and I flew into the side of the arena, hit the wall, and was just, pancaked into the dirt. And I got up. My body was I didn't have any broken bones, but it felt broken. But I got up, and the thing about the equestrian world is, you say fall 17 times, get up 18. You just got to keep getting up. And that was on a Friday. The next Sunday, I went back to the showgrounds and my trainer met me and she said, you got to get back up on your horse. And I threw my bruised body back onto my horse and rode him, and it hurt. It was excruciating. And I remember tears coming, down my cheeks as we rode. But from a mindset perspective, I needed to get back up because I didn't need those limiting beliefs of I'm going to fall again, to creep in. And so our ability to take one more step, one more rise, we get back up on the horse of life and we keep moving forward. Surely adversity is going to find us. Yes, but we have the power to get back up and keep moving forward, step by step, 1% by 1%.
And I'll also add on, I think there's probably a sense of responsibility that one, at least for me, I feel like I carry a responsibility as far as how I choose to share my own limitations, my own fears, my own, because those are real things. I think, especially when it comes to fear, I know that for however long I was exposed to this mindset that, fear is not a thing, it's not a real feeling, but it is a real feeling. It's a real thought. I think it's a real experience. And when I started to understand that and acknowledge it for what it was, I found myself actually gain significant more strength because I was able to really tap into that emotion and that feeling. And I'm curious to hear from you, because I think you're in a similar space as I am and so many other people. How do you project your fears onto other people?
Oh, well, as a mother, I really have to put myself in check. I have kids and I don't want my fear, my past experience in life, to be projected onto my kids, because their life is their life. Their life experience is for them. And I'm not here to project any baggage that I carry from my past onto them, if that's what you're referring to. I don't, there's that saying that says hurting people hurt people. I have to be responsible for my hurt. And I have to know that I do not have the right to spill it over onto somebody else who's undeserving of it, who's innocent. And so as a parent, as a woman, as just someone who does the work of helping others to heal, I want to be an example of what it means to deal with my hurt, to name the wound, to claim it. This is the wound. Notice what I notice. When that wound wants to rear its ugly head, how does that make me feel? How does my body respond? And then what do I do? What do I need to do to calm that beast and get back to the truth? And so projecting, I think, fear onto someone else is, that's pretty ugly. I know my adoptive mother used to do that all the time. She projected her fear of losing me onto me. And it was a very controlling kind of relationship that we had. She really worked to control me. And I didn't realize it at the time, but it was her fear of losing me, her fear of my going back to birth family in UK, etc., and turning my back on my adoptive family. The fears that we can carry of, not being enough. I think ultimately she feared that I would look at her at some point and go, you're not enough. You're not the mom that I needed or wanted or what have you. And so that was a control. She wanted to control me. And that's not love. Love doesn't control. Love is able to look at someone and say, I want you to be happy, whatever that looks like for you. And I will be here for you and I will accept you. And that's love. And so to be that example of love for my kids in part means that I am aware, awake, and unwilling to spill my hurt onto them.
Mm-hmm. While we're on the topic of parenting, and I feel like we've tackled adversity through so many different groups and experiences, I'm curious to hear from your perspective as a parent. A, do you ever worry about not being liked by your children? And B, is that something that you even strive for?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't worry about not being liked by my kids because I feel like I am at a place in my life where I really like me and I love me. And so if they see a mother, a woman who likes herself and loves herself and is excited about her life and is serving and doing, I think that that energy attracts like energy. They're going to like that. They're going to dig that. They're going to want to be with mom and hang out. I'm not, as they get older, I'm not as cool as I used to be. It's okay. It's okay. I think it's important that they see a human being, a parent, a mother who likes herself, who loves herself, and who does the daily work of growing and getting better and better and better. I think that's really key. It all starts here, Oleg. It starts with us. Right.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think I was just curious what your perspective on that would be, because many of the conversations I've had with people who are parents, that's been one of the topics. And that's actually a great question to even ask my mom. Like, at what point did that transform, or was that not even something on the back of her conscious mind? But I do agree with you. I think, there is that thing where, at least from my experience, as I age, like the parents, I don't know if it's necessarily not seen as like cool, but it's just more so, I think because everything else around us is evolving, conversation and just different things that we do. Like, when we were young, like super young, probably like, I don't know, my brother's age or whatever it was, like having a parent give you a bath was, perfectly fine. But doing that when you're 28 or 30, like, probably not.
Not so good.
But I think it's such an interesting perspective. Like, as a parent, what does one strive for? And what are the things that you wish to pass on? Like, do you even think about that as well? I know that you've shared a lot about just being complete and, sharing who you really are. But at the end of the day, is there one or a handful of things that you really strive for that you hope your kids get?
Being authentic, being unapologetically who you are is so key. I'm always stressing to my kids that it's absolutely essential in life to use your voice and to use your story for good. My son, Ian, is from Russia, as you know, and we were walking around the block the other day, and he's a football player. This guy is, he gets a vision in his head and he goes for it. And he is playing football. He actually transferred schools in order to be with a dynamic football program here in California. But we went for a walk together, as we will do from time to time. And I said, Ian, your mindset is incredible. I mean, it's like you don't hesitate to pivot if you sense inside of you that you need to pivot in order to get to the goal. And and he has clear vision of how he wants to give back. He talks about someday going back to Russia and using his story to empower kids who have been orphaned, etc. But he said to me, Mom, I'm a hero. I'm a hero. You tell me I'm a hero. I see you living that, that belief that we're heroes, that we can heal and we can emerge and we can reframe and we can overcome. I'm a hero. And it was that simple and that plain for him. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be adversity, but if he can go back to the seed of that truth, that he is a hero, that he has a power within him that's unmistakable, and he can unleash that power for the good of the world and do good, And that just keeps motivating him. But it was very clear. It was interesting because sometimes you wonder if your kids are hearing you, right? Do they really hear me? But it was so clear and so pure what he said. He's like, I'm a hero, And it pains me, as I said earlier in our conversation, I used to feel like a big old zero. I don't feel that way anymore. I know that I'm a hero. And it really pains me to think that there are people out there right now who feel like a zero in their life. Like they have nothing to give. When they do, they have so much to give. And sometimes it really is that whole mindset. And they haven't learned how to turn that around. And they're just the simple things that we can do. And understanding that, our bodies are vessels that help to move us around to live out our purpose. So we take care of them and we honor them. And that spiritual connection is so key. When you're out in nature, I would guess, and I'll throw this question to you, the connection is so powerful. For me, it's, nature and my horses, it's like so powerful, that connection, that spiritual connection. But I would imagine as you are out and you are pushing your body, your mind, your spirit out in nature, you feel that connection, right? It's profound and deep.
Yeah. It's a very intense, frequency that I vibrate on. And I noticed the same exact thing. In fact, one of the things when I personally face adversity, in addition to all the questions, it's to get out and get fresh air and get out and get a new perspective. I mean, I don't know how it is for you or anyone that's listening right now, but even walking amongst the trees or in the woods or whatever it is, it's like, I can't even describe to you, but like those things have their own energy and I can feel it now. I could sense it. And I realized that also when I started to look at life through the lens of it's happening for me and what am I here to truly learn? What is it? What does each circumstance and event help me see that I haven't seen before? I've developed significantly greater appreciation for life. I mean, for everything around me, the trees, the grass, just the ability to breathe, fresh air, ability to walk, to see. And I can't say it was always like that. And maybe that's part of the journey, is that life comes in chapters. There's probably chapters within your life as well as anyone else's where we didn't have as deep of appreciation for life.
Totally.
I mean, I'll tell you this, until all of this happened in Texas, I mean, I've experienced similar circumstances before, but many of the things many people take for granted. The electricity, the ability to connect like this, water. And then all of a sudden it's gone for a week and it becomes a problem. It breaks the routine. It breaks the rhythm. But I think at the end of the day, what I also chose to learn from that is the ability to adapt. And it sounds like very similar to what your son has done, moving places, but continuing to adapt. Adapt to the circumstances.
Absolutely. And understanding that within the adapting, there is a new chapter to be forged, right? And our lives are a series of chapters. I always say to my kids, you're writing the book of your life. Who do you want to be in that book? What decisions do you want to make? What experiences do you want to have? Ask yourself those questions. And, never forget that you are the voice of your life. You are the author of your life story. So claim that and don't hide from it. And don't ever let someone say that you're not worthy of sharing your story and writing your beautiful, beautiful life book, because it's just not true. And if you think about the times that we've heard those kind of comments, and we all have, so often we just don't realize that person is just hurting and it's really not about us. It's all about them. But we take it on, right? We take it on because we want to be liked. We want to hear someone's approval, etc. But at the end of the day, it's all about looking in the mirror and approving of the person that you see reflected back at you. And that is a daily choice and a daily awareness. And I love what you say about connecting with nature, because it's so true. Within the stillness, there was a time that I didn't want to be still. I didn't want to hear what I was sure was there. But now I crave the stillness, and I always crave being in nature. And, the breeze speaks to me, and the leaves on the trees and the moving clouds, all of it speaks to me. And it is an energy. And when we open ourselves to receiving that energy, we realize that we're part of not just a community of people, but a community of living things all around us. And that energy, that frequency is very empowering. It's spiritual, it's transformational. And we need to tap into that.
Mm-hmm. And I think it comes back tenfold
Mm-hmm.
once tapping into that. I've experienced the same exact thing when it comes to many of those things. I'm curious to hear, so I know that you do a lot of work, as you mentioned at the beginning of this, around coaching and specifically focused on the adoptee experience.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit more about why did you choose that experience out of all the other experiences that make up who you are?
Oh, such a good question. You've asked the best question. Thank you. I think that I recognized along my own journey of self-discovery as an adopted person, that we were, as a community of people, adoptees, we have been the portion of the adoption community that has been least heard. And it has caused a lot of pain. And when I coach adopted adults, they say to me 99.9% of the time, I never felt seen and heard in my life. I've never felt really known. I don't even know myself. And it's an untapped area of this adoption community, of the world community, when you consider there are millions of adoptees out there who long to really connect with the purest identity of who they are and to live authentically and to speak their truth. And, I felt like I spoke that language. And so I want to help. And how can I be a part of a solution? And so I just gravitated toward coaching in this way, beginning by saying, what do I want? I want to be a life coach. Why? Well, because I want to help people heal. But if I ask myself, go deeper into that, I want to help adoptees to heal and excel in their lives, because I understand the pain of feeling like I'm not worthy of that. And so I think that's probably what has driven me to do this particular work at this time in my life, knowing that there are more chapters ahead of me, more things to explore as a woman who is discovering more and more who she is and appreciating and loving myself more and more each and every day, 1% by 1% at a time, right? And really continuing to work on strengthening the mindset, the physical set, the spiritual set, all of that hero, and ultimately living that vision. If I have hero visions all over, on my phone, on my laptop, everywhere I look, I have little signs that remind me that I am a hero. And, if you want to transform, I believe that it's really important to follow, look at, model people who've done it. What have they done? How do they do that? And just begin modeling those steps. And then what you find is that you're able to craft them more specifically to you. They become very unique. And then you have something to offer the world, to teach something unique, some aspect of something you've learned from someone else. And you put it together with your own special recipe, and you come up with this unique sauce that you can go and share with the world. And I think it's a beautiful thing. We all have a story. We all have stories of adversity, things that we have overcome. If you just ask yourself, look back at your life, what have you overcome? What are those moments of resilience? And start journaling them down. You'd be amazed at just how fantastic you are. Right? What is that? I don't know, like you've probably heard it, that there's this negativity bias of 4 to 1. I just heard that yesterday, a mindset coach in the UK saying that there's this negativity bias of 4 to 1. Like we're going to believe the negative 4 times more than we hear one positive thing, right? We're going to believe the negative more often. So we are sort of naturally wired to focus on the negative. We have to switch that around. We have to be aware of it. and start looking at that 1%, that one ratio. You can read one nice comment about yourself, and then you read 4 others, and you're only focused on the 4 negative things, right? But we have to begin to look at the positive and learn how to silence the negative, because a lot of times that's just chatter. We're not going to please everyone, right? I don't want to have the please disease anymore, Oleg. I had that for a long time. And I'm working to, daily cure myself from that, heal that part of me that wanted to please as a younger person because I was so fearful of being rejected, and understand that the fear of rejection is really at the core of the struggle and the hurt and the pain that most adoptees feel, at least in the experience of who I have and continue to coach. It's that fear of rejection, that abandonment piece that keeps showing up.
Wow. You're exceptional at the way you break down the topics into, tangible bites, so to speak, and just how you look at the perspective, how you look at some of these larger topics like fear and adversity and limiting beliefs, and how you're able to break it down. I mean, that is a skill, huge skill that you have. And so I just applaud you for however you got here, whatever the steps were, because I know for a fact, having lived my own experience, none of this happened overnight. And this took many, many years of constant daily work and reminders. And you're one of those people that continues to do the work. And that it's inspiring to see that, and knowing that there's someone else on a similar journey in life.
Thank you, Oleg. I think you're fantastic. So thank you for saying that. We just have to, we keep building the muscle, and we help each other too. We remind each other we're capable of building that muscle.
Yeah. Outside of the place that I've already shown here, are there any other spaces where people can connect with you outside of the website or the Instagram, and learn more about your work, anything that you have coming up?
Sure. Facebook is another place. My author page, not my personal page, but my author page on Facebook, at Let Her Be Greater on Facebook, which gets back to the story of my daughter, but really is the catalyst for all of my transformation. Those words, let her be greater. Let us be greater. Let us be greater as a community of people. To hear each other, to see each other, to help each other through the challenges of this life and adversity, and to know that we don't have to be these perfect people, because that doesn't even exist. It's within the imperfections where we find a power. And we just have to be willing to go to those places of imperfection. I always say, I want to live my life scars, flaws, and all. I want to bear it all. I used to hide it all, but I want to bear it all. Because in the doing, I transform, and I help to transform others in some way, even if it's the smallest way. That's what I get up to do every day. That's what jazzes me and fuels me. So, yes, Facebook, Instagram, and of course at the website, lifecoachmnb.com.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for sharing this space, sharing everything when it comes to your life perspectives. And I always cherish the time, and I look forward to it every single time, because I walk away a better person. I've learned something that I didn't know. Oh,
thank you. I feel the same. I always walk away better for knowing you and for connecting with you. I consider you a dear and treasured friend, and you inspire me. And I am so grateful for that. Thank you, my friend. You're a treasure.
Thank you.